Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We begin today with a reminder about nitrogen applications. Here's SUNUP's Dave Deacon and our Precision Nutrient Management Specialist, Brian Arnall.
With the rain earlier in the week, there are a lot of producers out in the field, and Brian, they need to be doing some applications right now.
Yeah, so we have a fair amount of wheat in the ground already. Those areas that have good rainfall have a pretty decent stand. Hopefully this last rain really helped out, depending on where and how it fell. A lot of people have already got their nitrogen out there on their wheat. It's been a good thing. So the later applied nitrogen, we're doing good shape. Most of it has gotten in the ground, been activated with these rains. Wheat crops doing well. Some of our earlier planted wheat, we've had a fair amount of rain on some of the really early applied and early planted. We're gonna have to keep an eye on that as we maintain some good warm temperatures and get some good wheat growth. Those areas that had a lot of rain, after fertilizer went down, we need to keep an eye on them because we could be running out of nitrogen as we produce more and more wheat. This is also the right time because we're wrapping up wheat planting across the board. This is a really good time to be saying, okay, I'm wrapping up wheat planting, let's get out my enriched strips. Regardless of what you're doing, whether you go with a heavy or a high rate of pre-plant or a low, let's get some enriched strips out there, just that rate of 40 to 60 pounds in a strip. It could be an ATV or a push spreader. It really helps you throughout the season.
You have students back here actually measuring out for the plots here at Perkins, but if a producer wants to do an enriched strip on their land, just it can be any amount, just real basic.
Yeah, when we do research, so we weigh down to the gram. So we apply plots at a 10 by 20 foot plot, and we weigh down to the gram of material, make sure that it falls in that. When we go with an enriched strip on farm, we have a big range of N rates that I'm okay with. I want at least 40 pounds of that enriched strip, but it can be up to 70.
Right.
We just need something out there that's more than what's already on the field.
And then as we move into first hollow stem later in the season, that's also an opportunity to top dress with some nitrogen then too.
Yeah, as we watch and as we progress through the season, we watch how the growth is. We want to be thinking about top dressing when the weather is right. We've had enough research that shows we don't have to get in a rush with top dress, but we need to apply when the weather's conducive. So that could be cooler temperatures and no-till, where we can make sure we have good incorporation with rainfall and it doesn't get hot. Or as we progress out, as we get closer to hollow stem, we've got enough research that shows that the closer to hollow stem we're able to apply our nitrogen, the more likely that goes to increased grain yield and protein. And then we can keep an eye on those enriched strips all year long, and if we start seeing them show up later in the season, that's indicative, if I want to go for protein, I need to be giving it an extra shot right now.
Now back to the enriched strip. If a producer doesn't really know how to do it, they can consult their county office and then have help.
Yeah, go into each of the county offices. Many of them already have the push spreaders that we've sent out there that you just put a bag of fertilizer in, open it up, and walk. We also have lots of fact sheets. We have videos, SUNUP videos, and other videos that we've done to help out in the process of establishment and watching an enriched strip throughout the season.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian Arnall. And for more information on that, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
Welcome to the weekly Mesonet Weather Report. I'm Wes Lee. This week was a transitional week for Oklahoma weather as we move from near perfect fall temperatures to cold wintertime conditions. Changing weather can be a shock to people, but even more challenging to livestock. Thursday's predicted cattle comfort index showed cold caution conditions for the northwest 2/3 of the state. This is on top of the fact that cattle will likely be experiencing a wet hair coat and are not yet fully acclimated to cold weather conditions. For the month of October up through the 23rd, daily high temperatures had been running right around normal. This chart shows the long-term average high temperatures in blue and the actual October temperatures with the dark line. It might be a while before we see average high temperatures again. The National Weather Service forecast for the last week of October shows a very strong probability of cooler than normal air temperatures. The dark blues indicate an 80 to 100% chance. Their predictions for the first week of November are also very similar, showing a 60 to 70% chance of lower than normal temperatures. They have also issued a U.S. winter hazards outlook for this time period for temperatures expected to be much lower than normal for this time of year. Gary is up next with a warmer, longer-term winter outlook.
Thanks, Wes, and good morning, everyone. Let's get straight to that new drought monitor map, see if we have any changes. We don't have too many changes. We do have an increase in the abnormally dry conditions across much of the southwestern quarter to 1/3 of the state. We do have just a little bit of severe drought extending from Kansas down into Oklahoma. This is an area we're definitely going to have to watch. Let's take a look out to the winter months. Now, see increased odds of above normal temperatures across the entire state. And we look at precipitation, the increased odds of above normal precipitation across the northern tier of the United States. Down in our area, just the far southeastern corner, we see increased odds for below normal precipitation. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Well, drought's creeping into the state, and Paul, last time we talked to you, things were looking pretty good for grazing cattle on wheat. So where are we at now?
So a couple of months ago, whenever I last visited with y'all, that we had the potential for an outstanding fall forage production year for wheat pasture. We had a lot of moisture through August, and right there at planting, we had really good conditions. What I've found in the past is if you don't have rain after establishment, we can have a lot of more rain later in the season and it won't make up for that deficit. We'd really need moisture, in September to really get a jump start on wheat or fall wheat forage production. And this year it was kind of slow coming. We're getting some moisture now in certain parts of the state, but we're still kind of behind on our fall forage production.
So for producers who are really counting on that wheat pasture to come up to graze their cattle on, what are some supplementation methods that they can use or things that they can put out in the field to kind of get them by till that stand becomes more established?
In the 1980s, Gerald Horn and Gary Vogel did research where they were feeding silage every day to cattle on wheat pasture, and they used wheat silage or sorghum silage or corn silage, and they were able to decrease the amount of wheat forage consumption by about 2/3 of a pound for every pound of silage they fed. So they were able to essentially double the stocking rate of cattle on wheat pasture without decreasing the animal performance on those cattle. So a few years ago, I got into a situation where we were short on wheat pasture, and I looked at that old research, and we decided to use some round bale silage made out of Bermuda grass. And we were able to feed that once a week, every other week, as those bales needed to be replaced. And we were able to essentially double the stocking rate on those cattle, or stock normally with about half the amount of forage.
So when we're talking about silage, is there a specific type that's better than the other? Especially and it might even depend on where you're at in the state. What works better for southern Oklahoma might work better in northern Oklahoma.
Well, what we found with that Bermuda grass silage, it was about 14% crude protein and mid-50s in TDN. So it was a fair quality forage product, but that was real similar to the the type of silage that they were able to feed in the 80s in that research then. Mid-50s in TDN, but lower in protein. So we think if it's a palatable forage product, cattle will consume it, and it will offset that decrease in forage availability on wheat pasture.
So when's the kind of like, I guess, you know, the breaking point for that? Like when, you know, you're using silage, you know, to kind of supplement cattle as, you know, wheat's still trying to come up and the moist, waiting on more moisture. When does it just kind of time to maybe think of some different forage options?
My rule of thumb, if we want to maximize animal performance, is we want 5 pounds of forage dry matter at turnout per pound of animal body weight. So that's about 2,500 pounds of wheat forage dry matter for a 500-pound steer. In our normal stocking rate of 2 acres per steer, that's about 1,250 pounds of forage per acre. That's about 6 to 8 inches of forage height at that time. So for a normal turnout time of early November, we're going to be way behind that for this field, for instance. And you know, if we're much below that 2 to 3 pounds of forage dry matter per pound of animal body weight, we really need to provide some sort of supplement, whether it's supplemental silage or a high quality hay to offset that deficit.
All right, thanks, Paul. If you'd like some more information about silage and other supplementation options, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
We've discussed before in the Cow-Calf Corner the importance of body condition of these cows at calving time as it impacts the upcoming breeding season. But we must remember that any change in body condition between the calving season and the start of the breeding season also can impact rebreeding performance. Research done here at Oklahoma State University a number of years ago looked at what happened if we have a set of cows that are in good body condition at calving, 5.5 on our 1 through 9 scale, but half of them are allowed to lose a full body condition score down to about 4.5 by the time the breeding season begins. Those cows that lost the body condition had a rebreeding percentage of only 73%, compared to their counterparts that were fed to maintain body condition, 5.5 all the way into the start of the breeding season. Those cows rebred at a very nice 94% rate. And if you, of course, do the math, there's 21% difference in rebreeding performance depending upon how these cows perform between the calving season and the start of the breeding season. I think it's very, very important during these fall time frame that our fall calving cows, we try to maintain the body condition that was put on them during the course of the summer and the good body condition they had at calving, try to maintain as much of that as possible going into this upcoming breeding season. And that's where a good supplementation program comes in handy. It probably means that we need to add some protein as a supplement for the cows that are still grazing out here on good standing forage, or if we're in the situation where our standing forage has been cut down or is a little shorter than we'd like and we have to put out some hay, still a high protein supplement fed to these lactating cows at a rate of usually about someplace between 3 and 5 pounds per head per day will do a great job of maintaining body condition on those cows as they go into the breeding season. I think that it's important, as we pointed out last week, that you know the quality of the forage that these cows are consuming. Therefore, you can match the supplement and the supplement amount up to their needs. But keeping body condition on these cows from the time that they calve here in September and October until they start and go into the breeding season around the 1st of December will really help to result in a good rebreeding performance for those cows this year. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
We're joined now by Eric DeVuyst, our Extension Ag Economist. And Eric, I understand you and the team are working on a new decision tool calculator for those trying to figure out the Farm Bill.
That's right. So in the last Farm Bill, we had all these radical changes to the programs and lots of new calculations, lots of new information. There was a lot of decisions to be made. So in the last Farm Bill, we built a tool. We were able to document. We had 38,000 users nationwide, almost $13 billion of revenue protected using our tool. And that was funded by the Southern Risk Management Education Center, part of USDA. And we cooperated with the economists at Kansas State University. So we got the team back together again this year. The Kansas State folks are great partners for us. And so we're building that tool. We're in the process of reconciling data sources between the different USDA agencies, and expect to have a version available for our county extension educators and area specialists to be trained on in a couple weeks.
Okay, so that's kind of the time frame for extension folks to start engaging. When do you think you'll be able to roll it out more widely for producers to start accessing and start kind of running the numbers?
Well, we're optimistic that in mid-November we're going to have a version available for the public to use. And so we're hoping that'll be out, and then we'll have updates available as we get new data sources or errors are found, and so, but hopefully mid-November.
So you mentioned kind of what the tool did in the past. Kind of refresh our memory of what people can expect when they access this.
Okay, so the new Farm Bill decisions are very data intensive. Fortunately, most of that is in the form of data files from USDA. So we're in the process of parsing that data, reconciling between different county names, for example, between different files. And so they'll need to come in with, or they'll need to have available their FSA yields and base acres from the past, going back to 2013. And then they can just type that into the program. You know, it's going to take 20-30 minutes, and then they'll get results both in table and graph form. So it provides a lot of information. They can do the program this time is set up to do automatic sensitivity analysis, so they can enter, all right, if my yields are 10% higher, 10% lower, prices 15% higher or lower, it'll automatically update the numbers and give them a wide range of results then.
So in the meantime, folks can be getting their records organized.
Yeah, FSA has all that information available for them. They can get a form from FSA with all of that information on it. They'll have until March to sign up for 2019. And by the way, the 2020 sign up has started. So they'll be able to do those things. There's no rush on 2020. There's no rush on 2019. They've got time to get that done. So, but don't wait till the last week. Your FSA office is going to be swamped. We'll have links up. We'll come back on, myself or Amy will be back on. One of the two of us will tell you how producers can get to that, and then we'll put it on the SUNUP page, of course.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Eric. We'll see you again soon.
80% of the Oklahoma wheat crop is in the ground. And Kim, what is on the plate for Oklahoma producers as they move forward?
Well, I think the first thing is what the prices are. You can look at the current price, somewhere between $3.90 and $4. A harvest out in 2020, you can forward contract somewhere between $4.20 and $4.25. Relatively low prices. I think what they need to be concentrating on is producing a high quality product to sell as we get into June and July of 2020.
What's really changed since harvest back in June?
Well, if we go back in late June, our prices were up around $4.40. They peaked in mid-July at $4.50. In mid-September, they'd fallen down to $3.50, $3.60, and now you've got them up at $3.95 to $3.40. So they've really been wallowing around from about $3.60 to $4.40, mostly in that $4 range.
So when you have a question like this, you go straight to somebody with a PhD. Kim, why are wheat prices so low?
Well, if you look at what's going on with wheat prices, one, I think it's a relatively poor quality of the hard red winter wheat. Now, it did average 11.4% protein. You can compare that to 12.4 last year. Overall average when the good years are around 12.5. is what you need in the export market. But I think the main reason that our prices are at current levels, that's where we have to be to compete in the export market. What France has been selling the soft red winter wheat out, the coast coming out of the Black Seas, to compete with them in those markets, we've got to have prices right now at less than $4 a bushel.
Why are we seeing that 90-cent difference between hard and soft wheat?
Well, that's the big question that a lot of people have been asking. I think it's a market situation. You look at ending stocks. In 2011 to 13, hard red winter wheat ending stocks averaged about 300 million bushels. Stocks to use ratio 33%. You look at the last 4 years, including 19, we've averaged 524 million bushels of ending stocks, 66% stocks to use ratio. And for 19, we're projected 491 million bushels ending stocks and a 57%. Now, soft red winter wheat, which is normally at a discount to hard red winter wheat, but this last week was at 99.5 cents above it. In 2015-16, they had 2010 million bushels ending stocks, 67% stocks to use ratio. This year, 110 million bushels, significantly lower, and a 38% stocks to use ratio. So 57% hard wheat, 38% soft red winter wheat. Which one's going to have the highest price? Supply and demand, soft red winter wheat is. I think it's a market issue.
Going back to the global market, where are we with the world wheat crop actually being harvested?
Well, if you look, the northern hemisphere is essentially done, a little bit being done up in Canada and some parts of the USSR, 3 or 4% left to do there. In the southern hemisphere, you got Argentina and Australia, the important crops. Australia continues to lower their production because of drought, drier weather in Argentina. The market hadn't got a good handle on it yet, but a couple of weeks ago we were talking about a record crop in Argentina. Now it's going to be less than a record, and that is part of the reason we've seen a 45 to 50 cent price increase over the last month or so.
Is there any hope for higher prices here in Oklahoma?
Oh, I think so, and especially as we get out to that next crop. If you look at the protein premiums in Kansas City right now, ordinary wheat, which is less than 11 to 12.6 wheat, you've got a 90 cent to $1 premium there. If you're looking at, say, 12.2 to 12.6, you're looking at an 80 cent premium. In other words, if we can have 12.5, 12.6 protein next harvest, you can that protein premium is going to be there because the protein is not going to come in the market between now and harvest. And so the way to get that higher price is to have that protein. You take 420 plus 80 cent protein, you got $5 wheat right there.
So that's easy to say if you're looking at all the numbers, but there's also input costs that go into that. What advice do you have for that Oklahoma wheat producer that's riding the margins on that wants that high protein, but also knows that there's going to be inputs to also make that higher price?
Well, what's coming out is research at OSU is timing that nitrogen applications. You don't have to put as much down you get a bigger bang for your buck. If you put it down at the right time, you can lower costs, less nitrogen, and better quality.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kim Anderson, grain marketing specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
If you enjoy drinking tea, you may be surprised to find out that depending upon the type, the tea that you enjoy might not actually be tea at all. Tea is the most consumed beverage in the world after water, and all true tea comes from the leaves of the plant Camellia senescens. Other types of tea, such as herbal, are actually infusions. Herbal teas can be made from herbs, spices, seeds, flowers, fruit, or other plant material, but they typically don't contain any tea leaves. There are approximately 6 categories of what are considered to be true teas. These are white, yellow, green, oolong, black, and post-fermented, also known as dark. The different categories are created by exposing the tea leaves to different processing steps. These include wilting, in other words, after picking the leaves, allowing them to wither and dry, and oxidizing, in other words, after picking, allowing the leaves to turn brown. Post-fermented tea is basically green tea that's been allowed to ferment and age anywhere from 10 to 15 years. The highest quality and most expensive post-fermented tea may be aged up to 50 years. Prior to the Ming Dynasty in China, tea was often pressed into forms such as bricks so that it could be easily transported and traded. And even today, post-fermented tea is still often pressed into bricks. So whether it's a hot steaming mug of green tea in the wintertime or an icy cold glass of herbal tea in the summer, remember to sit back, take a sip, and enjoy. For more information, please visit sunup.okstate.edu or fapc.biz.
That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find us anytime at sunup.okstate.edu and also follow us on YouTube and social media. I'm Lyndall Stout. Have a great week, everyone, and remember, Oklahoma agriculture starts at sunup.